Hello and welcome to Happy Horror Time. My name's Tim Murdoch.
My name is Matt Emmer, and what listeners can't see right now is Tim was flailing his hands up in excitement.
I was like, I'm on a roller coaster, but you can't see the coaster.
I know. Do you know how many times during interviews, the person that we're interviewing over Zoom will like make an expression or point to something, and like we're like, no, you got to describe it. Like people can't see you, they can only hear you.
Or like when
Tim.
you like you squeeze my leg under the table.
I do sometimes, like if there's like something like funny or crazy or like something weird happened during an interview, I'll squeeze Tim's leg and Tim starts feeling a little funny.
Yeah, I feel funny.
He's like, what are you doing? That Jacob's in the other room.
I was like, there's somebody in the room.
There's somebody in the fucking room. What movie's that from, Tim?
Oh, that's from Friday the 13th Part 2.
Hey, Tim, I've got a question for you. How many times have we watched Friday the 13th Part 2 this year alone?
I would say 6 or 7 times. Right?
Do you know, listeners, here's a fun fact for you. We have interviewed 5 different people from Friday the 13th Part 2. I think that is definitely the most people from one movie that we have interviewed. I don't even think it's close. Like 5 different people, Tim. I think we should get every cast member.
From Part 2?
Yeah, every cast member that's still alive, so not Crazy Ralph.
We've really dropped the ball on Part 3.
We can't, I know.
Oh, no, actually,
we have
two.
Larry Zerner and Tracy Savage.
That's
yeah.
true. Part 4, Kimberly Beck.
Kimberly Beck and Peter Barton.
Part 5.
Part 1, Adrian King. Part 5, Melanie Kinnaman, Deborah Voorhees, and we have one coming up, which I'm teasing, but
Surprise, surprise.
but we're not gonna tell you. Part 6, we have Tom Matthews, and do we have anyone else from Part 6?
No. Wouldn't you love to get Jennifer Cook from Jason
Oh
Lives?
my God, if she ever did interviews anymore.
Megan!
Part 7, we have Kevin Spiritus and Lar Park Lincoln.
We got the 2 leads.
Part 8, Barbara Bingham.
Oh, don't forget William Butler.
Oh, William Butler, too, from Part 7. Yeah. Part 8, Barbara Bingham. I'd love to get Jensen Daggett.
Me too. That's a dream.
I know. And then Jason Goes to Hell, Nobody Yet. Jason X, I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Nothing against Jason X.
I would love to talk to Amanda Righetti or Jared Padalecki from the Friday the 13th remake.
Oh, okay. I was thinking.
And Travis Van Winkle.
Oh my God. I love Travis Van Winkle was recently on the red carpet for the new movie It Ends With Us. And I have been following the Blake Lively.
Oh, all the drama. You know,
Yeah.
Travis Van Winkle was in a season of You, the TV series.
Was he shirtless in it a lot,
He
right?
was like naked and
Naked?
like, I mean, like you just from behind, but he is
Just
in
from
such
behind?
great.
That's great.
No, I mean, like he's in such great shape. Like he is a hottie, but he's also been in. Do you remember that horror movie with Scout Taylor Compton where they're locked in the sauna?
What was it called? Like
102 million degrees or something.
I've never seen. I remember I gave it like 10 minutes. I was like, I'm good.
I thought it was pretty good.
You watched the whole thing?
If I remember correctly, I did.
Good for you.
I was like, oh my God, Scout Taylor Compton from Halloween and Travis Van Winkle from Friday the 13th, like
But
a
he's
horror
also
movie.
in the Arnold Schwarzenegger show, which I do not watch. Well, I watched like 5 episodes and I gave up.
Wait, the Arnold Schwarzenegger
It's
show?
a show I want to say on Lifetime or Netflix, and it's like,
called The Terminator.
It's called The Terminator Chronicles.
What?
I'm kidding.
What
I don't
show?
know what
Really?
it's called. It's like they're like helpers of Arnold Schwarzenegger and his daughter are like spies, and like him and Fortune Feimister, the comedian, are like they help them.
Oh my God. How have I not even heard of this?
I mean, it's
maybe because I don't watch Lifetime.
it's
Actually,
not
yes,
on Lifetime.
I did.
It's on Netflix.
Oh, I thought you said, why did I think you said Lifetime?
Why would Lifetime have a Terminator show?
I don't know what I was thinking. I heard Lifetime. You said Netflix. What Netflix? What's that?
Well, it's the one big streaming service I do not have.
You don't have. Wait. Oh, because when you moved,
I
didn't
only picked up Peacock. And
re-sign up.
Paramount.
Why not re-sign up for it?
P-O-O-R.
Wait, what does that spell?
P-O-O-R.
You are not poor.
You know, I
Tim,
maybe
start a GoFundMe. It's called Help Tim Afford Netflix.
help Tim get all the streaming services.
Well, I mean, okay, so normally I would say, use our password, but
I
you know
also have
what?
Shudder.
Do you know what Netflix has done now?
What have they done?
Well, you can't.
What have they done?
You can't share passwords anymore.
I know, they're becoming bitches about this.
They are really bitchy. In fact, my parents were using ours and they had to even get theirs. I was like, Mom, Dad.
What happens? Like they turn it on and it says like, hey,
they send over a firing squad and they execute you.
Oh my God. I'm reading now on my phone. It says, we'll come over with handcuffs.
Yeah. In fact, fact, your phone heard me even come up with the idea of sharing passwords, and they're about to kill you.
You know, it's really interesting you say that, because I remember was looking up some kind of like sweater or sweatshirts or something, and then like all of my ads were about sweatshirts and sweaters.
Well, because of you, now I get posts about the fucking Bold and the Beautiful.
No, you don't.
I do. Everyone who listens knows that Tim is a big soap lover, but he specifically watches Bold and the Beautiful. I'm talking every day. I do not. But now my Facebook thinks I do, because it must have heard me with you talking about it. Yep, I'm getting next Monday on Bold and the Beautiful.
Oh, that's exciting.
It's not at all exciting. But are you getting like more Halloween stuff because of me? I feel like you're going to get like ads for Spirit Halloween and stuff like that because of me.
No.
Oh.
I'm
funny how that works.
I'm what you call
Les incompetents.
Les incompetents. Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, so first off, welcome to September, everyone.
Thank you.
I hope that you just tuned in for our Amanda Wyss interview last week from A Nightmare on Elm Street.
What a dream.
It was a dream, not a nightmare. We were so, I think I used that joke in the intro. Did I? I can't remember. Something like that.
Maybe.
We were so excited to talk to her because not only is it the 40th anniversary of A Nightmare on Elm Street, she is the iconic opening. I don't even want to say victim, because she's kind of like the lead of the movie at the beginning, you know?
Yeah. Tina, you better...
Tina.
What does her mom say?
She says, you better cut those fingernails or quit that kind of dreaming, one or the other.
I love it.
Like, okay, Mom.
And the mom's never in the movie again, right?
No. She just disappears like all the parents in that movie. But Amanda Wyss was the sweetest. She was the sweetest. So if you didn't catch that interview, not only was she so cool to talk about Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, for the millionth time, but we talked about some of her other movies that people are unfamiliar with.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Well, not that one. That people know that one. I'm talking The Id, which was like such a big movie for her because she played such an important part, and you could tell she just loved talking about it. So it made our day.
And Better Off Dead is not as big as people think it is.
And it wasn't our thing because it's not horror, but we did touch on those just a little bit. But Nightmare on Elm Street was the focus.
Speaking of Better Off Dead, I went to a screening of How I Got Into College and Big Man on Campus. And do you know who I sat next to, Matthew?
Who, Tim?
Nancy Stevens.
As in Nurse Marion from Halloween.
Yes, and she was with her husband, director Rick Rosenthal. I think it was her husband, I'm assuming.
I'm glad I didn't go to that screening with you because I would have geeked out. I'd be like, oh my God, Nurse Marion, because she's in Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Kills. And if you're wondering, why haven't we had her on the podcast? We have tried.
We're working it.
We are working. I told Tim, I was like, oh my God, we got to now like use that. I don't know if she does that many interviews anymore. She does go to conventions all the time.
She was super nice to me.
Oh, well, maybe you should have been like,
excuse me, is this seat taken? I go, yeah. And she goes, you bastard.
You should have been like, hey, where's Dr. Loomis?
I was like, you tell me where Dr. Loomis is, young lady.
And then you said, this one's for Dr. Loomis, like Halloween Kills.
And then I shot myself in the face.
And then you got stabbed a million times by Michael Myers.
That was terrible.
I mean, that would have been a dream for me to sit next to them.
You know what? The lights went down. It was the New Beverly. They're very strict there about talking.
Did you ask her to reenact her running scene in H2O?
I did. And she goes, I'm here to see my friend's film Big Man on Campus.
And you said, no, I want you running from house to house and going, Jimmy, and seeing Joseph Lorden.
I love Joseph Lorden.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt with an ice skate in his head.
No, we did not have that kind of time. Can you imagine?
Hey, what was it like acting with Joseph Gordon-Levitt? Lights go down on the road.
And she goes, shh. She goes, I've had it with these Halloween questions.
She's like, nobody ever talks to me about that movie.
She goes, I wish people would recognize.
You know, the funny thing about, I've obviously checked her out on Instagram, and on her Instagram profile, it says, known for being the chain-smoking nurse in the Halloween series.
Well, she was smoking a lot.
Wait, I thought you meant in person. I was like, you can't smoke in a theater.
She was smoking in the movie, and I said, hey, could you put that out? And she goes, shut up.
And then she put it out on your face.
Yeah, and I said, damn, girl.
And then you're like, Dr. Loomis wouldn't approve. Okay, enough of the Halloween references.
I have one more thing. I'm going to go Friday 13th reference. Okay, so the star of How I Got Into College and Big Man on Campus was Corey Parker, who played in Friday 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. He got his throat slit. He was one of the two, like, I don't know what they were, like bikers. But
the ones that everyone thought was kind of gay.
Yeah, the gay duo.
The gay duo.
He got like a hatchet across his throat, right?
I mean...
Or a machete?
God. I thought he got
wasn't
strokes.
The one that got the thing in his mouth.
Oh, okay. You're sounding real gay now.
No,
okay.
what's that called? It's like a pink thing to like, so you don't swerve off the road. What's that called?
A pink
Like
thing
you,
so you don't
like you light
swerve.
it to put on the
a
road.
flare.
Yeah, like he didn't get the flare in his
Pink.
mouth. It's pink.
It's like orangish red.
I always thought it was
What
pink.
gay ass flares are you lighting?
Yeah,
Pink-
don't worry about it.
Tim's running around the streets with a pink flare going, hey.
It looked pink to me.
You know what? I bet it did. A lot of stuff looks pink
You know
to
what?
you. Moving on.
Talk to anyone that's seen Friday 13th Part 5 A New Beginning 1985.
I'm going to ask Nurse Marion if she'd see. Can you
She's
imagine if I called her
busy.
Nurse Marion? She's like, I'm actually Nancy Stevens. Okay, Nurse Marion, what hospital do you work at? Haddonfield Memorial?
You know,
Oh, no.
she was using her cellular. I saw her texting.
You should have been like, put that down, girl.
Yeah, I said, do you know anything about the New Beverly? They're very strict.
Okay, moving on to the movie we were talking about. I'm personally really, really excited to talk about this movie because right off the bat, I'm just going to say I really enjoyed this movie. I didn't know what to expect going into it because it wasn't one of those movies that's been as hyped up as like Smile 2 or Terrifier or even what's the preview we see every fucking week?
Speak No Evil. Yo-Yo Coat.
You don't see we did see the trailer for this a bunch, but it wasn't hyped as much. So I didn't know a ton. And Tim and I had the pleasure of going to a screening that had a Q&A afterwards with the writer director, the star, and the cinematographer who happened to be Giovanni Ribisi of all people.
Yes, who showed his penis in Suburbia.
Yeah, and I think that's how he gets introduced all the time.
They were like, and cinematographer, penis shower, Giovanni Ribisi.
We've got the guy who showed his penis in Suburbia, Giovanni Ribisi.
Well, I mean, you know what?
I remember that too, so trust me.
You know what? I applaud his bravery.
I applaud his penis.
And you know what? It's nothing to be ashamed of.
It wasn't.
It's just the human body.
He was also in Friends. He played Lisa Kudrow's brother, remember, who she had as kids. Not like she slept with him, but surrogate. Anyway.
He had a very memorable role in the Halle Berry movie where
Monster?
Not Monster. It's Halle Berry and Bruce Willis. Oh gosh, I'll never remember the title. Anyways,
who cares?
Anyway, he plays a psycho in it.
Oh, he's good at those like odd characters. But speaking of odd, it was odd seeing him as a cinematographer. But we'll get to the Q&A later. I just want to tell you about the movie because if Strange Darling wasn't like on your list of movies to see it came out at the end of August, but anytime, you really should. I just was so impressed. It was very unique. It is not what you think. So I will give you a spoiler alert that we never give. I'm going to say this. If you have not seen this movie and do plan on seeing it, I'm actually going to ask you to come back to this episode. Can you imagine? We never do that.
Let's do a 20-minute pause.
we're going to, because you can see the movie in 20 minutes. No, but I'm serious. If you are considering this movie, like it probably will make sense to go see it and then listen to it because there's some twists and turns that unlike an M. Night Shyamalan movie are actually good.
This movie it goes places that is uncomfortable for the viewer
in a good way.
In a good way, yeah. Like I mean, like it because the movie has the guess factor and the surprise factor that other movies don't have. So it is a disservice to, I guess, know what we're about to talk about into it.
And normally, some people, we've heard from listeners, some people will listen to our episode and then go see a movie. They don't mind, like, even if we spoil, like, certain twists. But this movie, the whole movie is told out of order in a way.
6 chapters.
Yes, it's told in 6 chapters, but you don't see the chapters in order. So it's told in a way where they want you guessing and you're getting different ideas until you find out what's really going on. And I just thought that was really unique. I mean, I've seen movies that have flashbacks and flash forwards, but not a movie that had chapters where it was told out of order.
Right, it goes like 6, 3, 2, 1.
Well,
2,
actually,
3,
Tim,
5.
I wrote it down.
Have the order?
I did. It was 3, 5, 1, 4, 2, 6. Because obviously you got to have the end at the end. But so we're going to get into how this is told, and I want to kind of save. Let's not spoil till we get to the chapter that spoils it, because I kind of want to talk to you about our reactions as we were seeing it and what we were thinking. You know what I mean? Because the opening of this movie, very Texas Chainsaw Massacre-y, because they have an opening crawl and they say that it's about like the last few months of a serial killer's like journey between 2018 and 2020. And first thing, Tim, I was thinking, wait, was this real? It's not. But
right. They set it up in the Fargo tradition of like, what you're about to see is real. And it was read by Speed 2 actor Jason Patrick.
Who apparently is also in Terrifier 3. How did they get him for Terrifier 3?
You know, the same way they got Zach Galligan in Warlock 2. You know?
Money.
Yeah,
I was going to say money. No, it's interesting. Look, love the Terrifier movies, but you don't tend to see like a star at Jason Patrick's level in them.
I think maybe Jason Patrick has kind of been making the convention circuit a little bit.
That's true. That's true.
So maybe someone from Terrifier was like, hey, can you do us a favor?
That's the thing. He may have a very small role. We don't know because we haven't seen it yet.
He is taking over for
David Howard Thornton.
Yeah.
He's playing Art the Clown. Jason Patrick as Art. Can you imagine?
I mean, you know what?
No, nobody can do that like David Howard Thornton.
I'm saying, you know, mix it up.
Mix it. No. Yeah, mix it up. It's the same. You got to have the same Art the Clown. Anyway, okay.
There could be more than one clown.
So we also get this quick glimpse of the main girl in the movie saying, "Are you a serial killer?" And it switches. And the main girl is played by Willa Fitzgerald, who is incredible in this role. I was so impressed by her.
It's a star-turning role.
I'm talking... Listeners, this is like Mia Goth in Pearl level acting. I know that's a big statement to make, but like she was incredible in this movie. You'll know Willa Fitzgerald because she was the main, like the final girl in the Scream TV series.
That's right. And she did some other films.
She was in the House of Fall of the House of Usher, the
with
TV
Kyle
series.
Gallner.
Yes, and she's been in other shit, but I can't remember. I've just never been as impressed with her as this in other roles.
She's great, but she's
nothing
never,
nothing I'd write home about.
Right. Like I gave up on the Scream TV series.
I didn't.
You watched
it got
all?
a little weird when they went to like the 2-day special and the season 3 of the show had nothing to do with the first two and was awful.
They rushed them all out and it started like Keke Palmer.
It was just a totally new cast and it was nothing connected. But the first season of the TV series I really liked, actually.
I tried, but there was something missing.
Was it Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox?
It was Nev Campbell, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Wes Craven, Kevin Williamson.
Yeah, like everyone involved.
Right.
Well, anyway, so we get this quick like soundbite of her saying, "Are you a serial killer?" And it switches to showing the main guy, who's Kyle Gallner, who you'll know from Smile, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, strangling someone in bed, and you don't know if it's her, what, or whatever, but then it just suddenly switches to a slow-mo shot of Willa Fitzgerald running through the forest with a big wound on her head as the credits are going. So you're like, oh my God, what's going on?
Coming out of her ear, or does she have an ear?
It looks like her ear was either shot off or something. But at this point, you're like, oh my God, what happened? What's going on? Did Kyle Gallner shoot her? Like what? And the credits are going and it says, Strange Darling, a story in 6 chapters. And what's interesting to note is when they introduce Kyle Gallner and Willa Fitzgerald, they don't have names. Willa Fitzgerald is known as the lady, and Kyle Gallner is known as the demon. So you're like, well, shit, is this supernatural? Is he just a serial killer?
I never got a supernatural feeling.
I never got that feeling, but when it said he was the demon, I was like, that's just an interesting title.
Another thing, before the scroll, it said this movie is shot on 35 millimeters.
Yes, it said it was not shot digitally, which, they haven't shot films on 35 millimeters since what, the 90s?
It actually, I'm going to sound like I'm a cinephile snob, and I'm not.
Oh.
I'm not.
Okay, go.
But it did have a nice texture and color, and it had a old-timey feeling in the sense that you're watching something that's, because there is something for digital you can recognize.
Oh, yeah. I love the grittiness of like
it looks
film.
like an old-time picture.
I do love, I want to know, Tim, though, was it beautifully shot? Your favorite?
It was beautifully shot.
You're right. I forgot about that. It says that because it was interesting that this was shot at 35 millimeters. So right after we just have this long slow-mo run of her during the credits, it switches to saying chapter 3. So we're getting right in the middle of it. And chapter 3 is called Help Me Please. You're like, okay. So right away we're brought into this big car chase, and Kyle Gallner's in a car.
It's a wild chase.
It is like, I'm talking like, it reminded me of Tarantino Death Proof.
It was very Death Proofy.
Yes. So Willa Fitzgerald, she's in this weird
Pinto.
like this Pinto with her ear bleeding, trying to drive fast away from Kyle Gallner, who has a shotgun and is following her.
And doing cocaine.
Yes, he's doing tons of cocaine, but then he stops his car and he shoots out her back window and her car flips.
And she survives that.
She survives that, and you're like, oh my God. So she gets out of the car and she starts running, and he's like going after her into the woods.
First off, he drives really, really fast, stops his car. She kind of tricks him. She goes one way. And then she goes the other.
But he has a shotgun with like, what is that called? A scope. So I don't care how far away she is. He has a good shot. But she flips her car.
How do you know that?
What?
Like scopes?
What a scope is?
Yeah.
It's the thing that you put on a gun so you can look through.
I know what it is, but how do you know?
How do I know what a scope is?
How do you know guns?
I've seen enough movies. How do you know guns?
You were saying it like you're some kind of like gun pro.
No, I'm just saying from like movies when they put the thing on so you can have a better eye shot.
You're talking movie talk.
No, I've done research on guns. Yes, that's my new pastime, Tim.
I love it.
I know. I'm like, what do you think? Yeah. Oh, so by the way, you want to go to the shooting range afterward?
Heck no. I actually never want to shoot a gun.
So I've gone to a shooting range one time. I have a story. It was my friend's
bachelor
wedding.
Party?
No, it was his wedding. My friends from college, Kate and Frank, and the day of the wedding, all the girls went to do something before the wedding, and the guys went to a rifle shooting range. Interesting choice of activities, but whatever.
I'll throw an axe. I love axe throwing.
Well, but this was, so I had to shoot a gun, and I will say I was not good at it. Not that like,
that's okay.
Yeah, I was not good at it.
I'm not judging you.
It's very, it's nerve-wracking, it's loud, it's powerful, it's weird.
I just feel there's so much room for error. Like I saw like someone filmed on Instagram or Facebook or something, someone was like showing their wife how to shoot a gun.
And they shot his wife.
But she kind of turned and she was still pointing the gun. And I was like,
I know.
Oh my God.
No, that's terrifying.
It freaked me out.
Trust me, it is terrifying. It's a terrifying thing. And the worst is if you don't know what you're doing, because then you're just an idiot.
Anyway, long story short, guns make me nervous.
Okay, understood. But anyway, so she goes running into the forest with this big wound on the side of her head. He's following her with a shotgun. But then what's funny is she stops to hide behind a tree. And do you remember she finds this bottle of alcohol?
It looks like someone's hidden stash. Like if they were hunting and they're just like, oh, but I brought liquor with me.
But the best part is that, she's worried for her life, but she decides to just swig a ton of alcohol and then she pours it on her wound.
Well, before she does that, she's wearing red scrubs, which there's a story how she got these red scrubs.
There's a story in that building,
There's
Tim?
a story in that building. Gail Weathers will find a way. And she also, her hair, by the way, it looks just like...
It's like bleached and messed up and bloody and weird.
So she decides to take her scrubs, shove them in her mouth as much as possible because of she screams after she's going to take this, what is that stuff called?
The alcohol bottle.
The alcohol bottle and pour it on her ear.
Now, I get it. She wants to, I guess, cauterize, so it stops bleeding and also clean the wound. But pouring alcohol on a head wound would be so painful. But then she takes out a cigarette and smokes.
Well, we learn later a lot of things, but she ain't playing with a full deck.
Yes, and she's avoiding him, and he's coming around looking with her with a shotgun, and you're like, oh my God, is he going to kill her? Is he going to kill her? Finally, she finds this house in the middle of nowhere. She runs to the house. She's banging on the door. Help me, please. Someone's trying to kill me. This old couple comes to the door, and they open the door, and it's...
I want to say Ed O'Neill, but it's
Ed Begley Jr.
Ed Begley Jr.
Ed O'Neill from Married with Children.
And Modern Family. No. It's Ed Begley Jr. from She-Devil with Roseanne and Meryl Streep.
I love that reference. Wasn't he also in Parenthood, or am I wrong?
The TV series, maybe.
No, maybe he wasn't. No, that was Steve Martin. What am I thinking?
I don't know what you're
Old
thinking.
white men. Okay, go on.
So he was also in Meet the Applegates with our guest Bobby Jacoby.
Oh,
Robert
yes.
Jane,
Okay.
And Barbara Hershey,
from
known
Beaches.
for Beaches.
So, but they answer the door and they're shocked, and she says, help me, please, and kind of faints. And then it switches. That was chapter 3. And we switch ahead to chapter 5. So we don't see what happened right after that. Now, chapter 5 is called Here Kitty Kitty. And right away, remember, they skipped chapter 4. we see Kyle Gallner with his shotgun in the house, and she's hiding, and you don't know, she's like inside something, and you don't know if it's a trunk.
Well, as he walks in, you see Ed Begley in a puddle of blood.
You see Ed Begley Jr. It looks like he was shot in the face.
Unclear. At this point, we don't know.
He is dead on the floor in a puddle of blood, and Kyle Gallner's going around the house looking for Willa Fitzgerald, and he's shooting every trunk he sees, but before he shoots it, he says, "Here, kitty, kitty," and then shoots it, which is kind of chilling.
But the way, like, for some reason, the gunshots in this movie, I don't know if it's just because there was surround sound or whatever, but maybe that was the 35 millimeter. It just sounded like a real gun. I mean, it was
loud. Were we in IMAX? No, I don't think we were in IMAX.
I just think we were in a nice theater.
It was just good volume.
Good volume.
No, you're right. I will say that gunshots in movies, when it's
usually
full
sounds
blast,
pretty fake.
No, I was going to say it scares me because they're so fucking loud when you're in a movie theater. You know, when you're watching on TV, it's not as loud because you're not blasting sound around you.
I think it's just because this movie wasn't like a comic book movie, and it was literally there was I don't remember a score.
No,
so it was literally just the gun.
But they had this sound effect that played every time you saw Kyle Gallner. It was like blurm. It's almost like this is the villain. Blurm.
There was music in it. It was very effective.
Do you remember that blur thing every time you'd see him?
It was good. It was good.
But it was jarring. Ooh, God, it was so good. I'm getting oh God, guns make me nervous.
Oh, guns.
Oh, guns. Anyway, so he's going around. You see Willa Fitzgerald. She's inside something. And then Kyle Gallner goes up to this freezer. Big, like human-sized freezer, and he says, "Here, kitty, kitty," and he shoots it, and you hear Willa Fitzgerald screaming inside. He opens it, and she's like screaming, going crazy, and he punches her.
Yeah, and then like it switches to a new chapter.
Yes, so done with chapter 5, and you're like, oh shit, he got her. Is he going to kill her? What? Switches to chapter 1.
I think it's just her arm, right?
No, he punched her.
No, I know, but like he shot her, but it was just her arm.
No. When he didn't shoot her, I think he shot the freezer. He shot it low just to scare her?
Would the bullet go through the freezer to get her?
Yes, but he shot so low. I think it was just to get her attention. Like, do you notice he was shooting it low?
I was under the impression that it got her arm.
I didn't see, but I don't know. You could be right.
We're gonna have to take another look.
But it could be right, but it didn't kill her. But he does knock her out. So that's the end of chapter 5. So then we get to chapter 1, which we're like, okay, how did these people meet? Chapter 1 is them. They're in a car, and it looks like she has this red wig on. It's not blonde
it's an
anymore.
Improvement. That blonde hair and the roots does not do her any favors.
Not good. Yeah, the red was cute.
It was
a cute wig. So they're drinking and smoking in a car, and all I could think, Tim, was they're smoking cigarettes, and there's so much cigarette smoke in that car. It was almost like they were hotboxing that car of cigarette smoke.
Was the window down at all?
Nope.
Ew.
And they pull up to a hotel, and they start having this conversation.
Do you remember the name of the hotel?
Oh, what was it?
Something Blue Angel. Was it Angel something?
Oh, I'm now remembering it was a neon sign and it was blue.
This movie is very into lights and colors.
Yes. Lots of blue something. But yes, now I remember. So they're having this big conversation about casual sex. So you get the idea that either they met at a bar, he picked her up somewhere. At first I thought, is she a sex worker? I wasn't sure, but you get the idea that they are coming to this hotel. Speaking of coming, they are coming to this hotel to have sex, but they have this like big talk, and then we get the soundbite from the beginning, and she says, "Okay, I just want to make sure of something. Are you a serial killer?" And he's like, "No." And of course, we're remembering everything we've seen.
Right, because in the beginning of the movie, we saw him strangling someone.
Yeah. And then she talks about, like, she says, you don't know how much risk a woman takes when she gets into these situations. And I was thinking,
That's
obviously,
very true.
I know. I was like, I'm not a woman, but I understand.
I have heard from women that even just walking down the street in the middle of the day,
night,
day and night, like women are just not as safe as men at any time.
100%. I mean, I grew up knowing.
Horrible statistic.
My mom would say the same thing. She's like, you are a 6'2" guy. Like, you can walk down and not have to be afraid for your safety. Like women who are much smaller, like you're walking around, you always have to be aware. So I've always known that. But I can also imagine a woman that, let's say, just wants to hook up. you're going and meeting a random guy. How do you know he's not going to kill her?
Right.
You know?
Like that was very unnerving for me. And I actually feel for all girls that like, because
that go to hotels.
Well, well, Willa Fitzgerald's character was saying like, hey, we like sex just as much as men do. So that aspect, I was like, oh gosh, but the risk factor for women is much higher.
And she's like, but you don't have to worry about like, you're going to get murdered and stuff. And, you know, we're watching this knowing
like,
what we're like, oh God, what's going to happen? So they get to them in the hotel and they're fooling around the hotel room. And she says that she wants to be handcuffed and choked, which I'm thinking, okay, she's kinky.
Wow.
All I was thinking was, this is so beyond Tim's comfort.
It really was. Like I was watching them because like I'm not flippant about anything
except for weird sex stuff.
Right. Weird sex stuff I just do not get. I don't want to be strangled. I like everything to be nice and sweet.
So here's the thing. Like I am definitely not into like choking. Handcuffing, I feel like I'd be too paranoid that you wouldn't be able to get me out of it. But like, it's not the craziest
there's a whole movie
thing.
about it. What's that, Gerald's Game?
Oh God!
She gets stuck there, and she has to kill a wolf and eat it.
Because her husband has a heart attack after she gets. What are the odds? Am I right?
Wait, doesn't her husband get eaten by wolves because the door's open?
Well, because it's a dead body, and the wolves. Yes,
and weird full circle moment.
That was Carla Gugino.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Carla Gugino, when the movie's all done, is the moderator.
Yes, she moderated the Q&A we saw, which we'll get to at the end. But anyway, so they're fooling around. So she, like, you get the feeling Willa Fitzgerald is just not feeling it with him, or it's not like enough for him. And she's like, forget it, get these handcuffs off. Like, it's not working. Suddenly, it's like he just switches and becomes this asshole.
Well,
he slaps her.
He slaps her and puts the handcuffs back on. And this is when
and starts really choking her to the point that she looks like she can't breathe.
Right. And this is where, obviously more of the story is revealed. But at this point in the movie, I was like, I am so uncomfortable. I do not want to be here.
He slaps her. He starts choking her. And then he says he's going to cut her open. And she's like crying and screaming. And I was really uncomfortable too. And you're watching, you're like, oh my God, is he going to kill her? But we know she gets to the car chase. Then out of nowhere, she says the words, Mr. Snuffleupagus. And you're like, what the fuck? And it immediately flashes back to them in the car. And you find out the twist is, she told him that she wanted him to do this. And she said, I want you to turn on me sometime while we're fooling around, pretend that you're going to kill me, make it violent. And whenever I say no, it means yes.
What a request. Make it violent.
Who does that?
I don't know. And like,
Tim, how many times have you done that?
A whole lot of never. I'm just not interested. Like that, I know everyone has their thing, but even just as the writer, because like afterwards we saw him, like who the guy was, like just to write this. Yeah. How do you
What are you thinking?
Yeah. Like, is this part, like you write what you know. So in any of his like sexcapades, was he ever like, the girl was like, hey, I'm going to say Mr.
Mr. Stephen, or maybe he had fantasized, or maybe it's just an idea. But what I thought was so clever is that the whole time he's strangling her and like turning on her, you think that, he's just he's a killer. And then when it flashes back and you hear that she had set this up, but all I was thinking was, to go about and, try to set that up with someone you don't even know. Remember, they just met and she's like, I want you to turn on me. How does she know that's going to be okay? You've got to really have a fetish to trust a stranger to turn on you and pretend to want to kill you.
There's a reason the phrase stranger danger exists. This is it.
So, but she does say while she's saying this, Tim, she says, look, the only thing while we're role playing that means to stop is if I say the words Mr. Snuffleupagus.
Right. And then she said, if I say no, it really means yes.
And she's like, and she just says, and she says, do not tell me when you're going to turn, just surprise me and turn like you're going to kill me and like torture me. So then we get back to the present and when she had just said Mr. Snuffleupagus and he immediately turns back to nice and he's like, I'm so sorry. I was doing what you asked. And then she's like, he uncuffs her and she's like, no, that was great. I loved it. And she's like all turned on and she's kissing him.
But then
we get this weird scene where we look at her after kissing him and she looks at him and it's like her expression changes, like she saw something.
Maybe maybe you're not into this. Or she says something along the lines of, it's basically a huge change in her.
But you see her look at him like she just saw something in him, like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then immediately it switches to chapter 4. Now remember, chapter 3 ended when she got to the house with Ed Begley Jr. and Barbara Hershey. So we see...
And they're putting together a puzzle of Scott Baio.
Yes. So chapter 4 starts with, we see the old people. They're putting together a puzzle of Scott Baio and making the most disgusting breakfast I've ever seen in my life.
That was a really interesting take. Like the movie kind of just stops for a second and they're like, we're going to make eggs, bacon, sausage, and like
pancakes
with butter,
whipped cream, syrup, and all mixed together. Strawberries, and it's all mixed together. And he brings it out to her and he's like, it's our Sunday breakfast.
I was like, part of me was like, I'm kind of hungry, but at the same time, I'm grossed out.
Like, I first, when they were mixing some of the things together, I'm like, yum, that sounds good. But then when he put the butter and the whipped cream on top of the butter
syrup?
And the syrup all over it, and it just all mashed together, I wanted to vomit.
Yeah, it looked like vomit.
It did look like vomit. So they switch to the girl, Willa Fitzgerald, arriving, and they go to answer the door, but Barbara Hershey is a little hesitant, and she takes her bear spray, she says, with her. But
because they said we're hippies.
Yeah, we're old hippies, but they're like, so she says, oh my God, this guy's trying to kill us, and then of course, the old couple, they're very nice. They're like, they'll tend to her wound and they wrap up her wound. And then Ed Begley Jr., Barbara Hershey goes to get painkillers for her. And Ed Begley Jr. says he's going to...
She said like Advil. Yeah, Percocet. What
Percocet is like Oxycontin.
Right. I got it for when I got my 4 wisdom teeth pulled. And like
sure you got Oxycontin or Hydro?
I got Percocet.
Percocet, yeah, is Oxycontin.
Yeah. Oh, is it the same thing?
It's a really strong painkiller.
I remember I took it once and I said never again.
I've never had Oxy. I've only had Hydro, the lesser version, and it was nice.
I do remember I was working at the Starliner Diner, and my coworkers were like, "Hey, how was it when you got your wisdom teeth pulled?" And I was like, "Oh, they gave me Percocet," and they're like, "Did you use it all?"
Everyone loves Percocet. I mean, that's
like,
why there's an opioid crisis in this country.
And it wasn't Ohio.
They're highly addictive, but so it's good you only took one. But,
and by the way, I did not sell it. I think I just threw it away.
You drug dealer. No.
Never.
Wait, a pusher? Like a drug pusher?
Mean Girls.
Put it in the book, Tim.
Put it in the book.
Okay, so as Barbara Hershey's looking for Percocet, Ed Begley Jr. is just like, I'm going to call the cops and because, there's a killer after you. And she's like, no cops, please. And he's like, no, I got to get the cops. And then it switches to Barbara Hershey coming back in the room, and she sees that Willa Fitzgerald has knocked Ed Begley Jr. over the head with something and stabbed him in the chest. And you're like,
blood everywhere.
What the fuck? He was just trying to help you.
And this is where we learned that Willa Fitzgerald is a nutball.
Is not quite what we saw. And we don't know the full extent yet, but we're like, she just cold-blooded murdered a guy that was going to help her. Barbara Hershey looks stunned. And she says to Barbara Hershey, look, I'm not going to kill you.
She goes, can you believe I'm not going to kill you?
And she's like, is there someplace I can take you where you can just stay for a while?
And the conversation and the way these women are acting is very interesting because she says, oh, there's some chains in like the shed. And she's like, oh, okay. Like it's so nonchalant.
Well, because I think Barbara Hershey and it was a choice, but she's so stunned. She just walked in and sees her husband dead on the ground. And she's so shocked that she doesn't even know, like she's in total shock. But Willa Fitzgerald is like, okay, I'm going to take you. Barbara Hershey says they have a storm cellar. She's like, I'm going to take you to storm cellar and you're going to wait there. I won't kill you. So she's taking her outside.
I guess if I do have any questions, well, I have a lot of questions, but one big one, and I guess the number one question is, why didn't she just kill Barbara Hershey?
There's a weird thing, and we can get to it at the end, where Willa Fitzgerald, there's some people that she spares, and I'll give you my thoughts on that at the end, but it's like if she doesn't need to kill them, she doesn't, but at the same time we'll get to that.
I know.
Anyway,
it's
she's
a
walking,
lot of questions, but the movie keeps rolling along.
She walks Barbara Hershey outside, but then Barbara Hershey out of nowhere just takes off running to escape, because remember, Willa Fitzgerald doesn't have a gun, so Barbara Hershey gets away.
Well, she goes running because the guy from Smile's walking in, right?
Well, because then Kyle Gallner Gallner shows up with the shotgun, and Willa Fitzgerald is like, shit, I've got to hide. So she runs inside, she takes the bear spray and hides in the freezer. Now remember, that's the end of chapter 4, which gets to 5.
Well, she unplugs the freezer. Like, she does a lot of things before she gets in the freezer.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like, she'd die in the freezer, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. If she got in the freezer and it was
she would
she would have died. No,
so
totally.
I made a mental note watching it, like, oh, good, she unplugged it.
That's true, but you're thinking at this point, okay, and I got to ask you, at this point, I knew something was wrong with Willa Fitzgerald, but I was still thinking Kyle Gallner was a killer. I just thought they both were killers.
Well, I thought because they were so flirty. Well, my first instinct was like, that's just two messed up people playing a weird game.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, they're taking their game one step too far.
Somebody's taking their love of scary movies one step too far.
I was like, wow, they're really driving this home.
I know. So, but I didn't quite know because we knew that Kyle Gallner was still after. So anyway, it switches now to chapter 2. Now remember, chapter 1 ended with her looking at him weird after their weird role playing, like she just saw something weird in him. So she's kind of acting off weird. She asks him if he wants to have cocaine, but she pours cocaine for herself and then pours something for him from another bag.
Right. And I did not know what it was. And she does reveal what it is later.
It's ketamine, which if you heard all that Matthew Perry stuff, very topical.
It can freeze you, like not freeze you, but it can
really knock you out.
You can't move your body.
And well, she gives him such a huge amount that, so she has him sniff it. He thinks it's cocaine. And suddenly she's being all bitchy to him. So he just decides, he's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. If you do cocaine and become a bitch, I'm leaving. He goes to leave. He doesn't make it that far, Tim, because what happens?
He goes out the front door and apparently it's daytime now. He like drops it and like his mouth starts foaming and he can't move his body.
He's like paralyzed because she's given him like so much ketamine.
I don't know if her small frame could pull him back in because he's very muscular and we need to stop this entire podcast to talk about how good looking his body really is.
I mean, he's always been one of those like undercover cute guy, meaning someone who like at first glance you're not like, oh my god, he's so cute, but like when you look at a little more,
ripped, right?
Well, his body was ripped, but I'm saying like when I've noticed him in other movies, it hasn't immediately been like, oh, he's so cute, but he's become a sexy adult. You know, he's been acting since he was young. Like,
I mean, kudos. You know, he's probably starving himself for this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he looked great. He has his shirt off for half the movie, but anyway,
if someone told me it's going to be in a movie. Well, I'd be at first amazed that I'd be in a movie, but I mean,
you're like first I'd say what?
I was like, you want me in it? But like, he's shirtless.
Well,
for like half
when
the
I
film.
was in the play, when I had to be naked, I
worked out
all the time. I went to a tanning place. Like, yeah, you're like, oh my god. I
love that you went tanning, but I also when I was in high school, when I had to be shirtless on stage in front of the school, I did go tanning.
Well, exactly. So you think about those things, but anyway, so she pulls him back in the hotel room, and then suddenly she gets out a knife and carves 2 initials into his chest, the initials EL, which apparently stand for Electric Lady. Now, is that like her title, her name? Like, I didn't get, what was Electric Lady?
Going back to the Jason Patrick scroll, was she part of that?
Well, what we realize is that she then sees in his wallet, first of all, he's completely incapacitated. He can't move when she's carving this in.
The way when she's opening up his wallet, she is in the bathroom sitting on the toilet.
I don't think she's like going to the bathroom, but she's just hanging out.
But it has red lighting. Thanks, Giovanni Garibsi. But then she takes like his wallet and
he's a cop.
And she just tosses it in the toilet.
This whole time he's a cop, and you realize, oh my God, this whole time we've thought he's hunting after her. He's a killer. It's actually reversed. She's a killer. Like the whole opening scroll at the beginning that talked about the serial killer, they're talking about her. He's actually just a cop who wanted to have casual sex. So she's carved him up.
Oh, wait, what? Wait, so he's really just a cop having casual sex? I thought he was on the hunt for her. I thought he knew the whole time.
Oh, I didn't know. You mean like he was pretending to do that?
Yeah, like I thought he was pretending to...
I get... Well, but then if he already had her in the car with her, why did he have to do the sex part if he could have just captured her?
I guess it's a perk of the job. I don't know.
No, you're totally right. I didn't think about that. Maybe he was going undercover to hunt her. I didn't think about that because he did the whole role-playing thing. He didn't just handcuff her and take her in.
Right. He could just be a cop that
wanted
into
to
that.
have casual sex. But you're right. Like he did. He could. That's a possibility. But anyway, she goes back out there. And she then gets her knife up and she's about to kill him. She says, now sleep. And then what she didn't know is he had a gun strapped to his ankle. So he takes out the gun and shoots her and it hits the side of her head. That was the wound.
I thought it was her ear.
Well, I mean, the side of her head, ear.
Right, but I mean, like,
I
honestly, like, I'm gonna have to take a look at this film. I thought he blew off her ear.
He did, but I'm saying that's the side of
no,
her
but
head.
I'm saying like they could have done something with like sound, like like
they did. Remember?
Did?
Yeah. Right when she gets hit, you hear from her point of view, and it sounds like because her hearing was all fucked up.
I did watch this film.
I
just don't remember
Tim's conked out for a second.
I was in shock because this movie it keeps me guessing.
Everything you thought, like in the very first chapter of this film, she's driving in the car chase with this wound and he's coming after her, and you think that he caused the wound because he's a killer and he's coming after her. It's all because he was defending himself against this sadistic woman who was trying to kill him. But it's such a cat and mouse type of role reversal.
So,
like the sex game in a way became real life, this whole role reversal thing. So he shoots her.
She jumps out of the hotel room in broad daylight, only wearing panties and a bra, and blood coming out of her head.
Yes, she has this, and she runs to the front desk of the hotel and she goes inside and she like locks in there. There's two women there and she's like, help me, you've got to help me. And like one of the women,
she's like, I'm going to lock you in until the cops get here. And she goes, no, you aren't. And she stabs her and it's gross.
She stabs one of the women in the neck, like basically to slice her neck.
Oh yeah. And she goes, give me your keys. And she's like,
no, that she says that to the other one.
Right. And then she hands her the keys and she says, she goes, which is the car key? And she goes, this way. Like it was a
and then
moment.
and she's like, now give me your scrubs. And that's now we find out how she got the scrubs. But and then it switches to her going to the car. Do you think she killed that girl? I'm assuming yes, but you never know, actually.
We
Sometimes
don't know.
she spares people.
She spared Barbara.
And then, so now we know, again, this is chapter 2, how she got in the car and why she was going while she was driving away from Kyle Gallner. Kyle Gallner gets up, the ketamine's starting to wear off. He does a ton of cocaine, which can counteract the effect of ketamine.
Wait, how smart of him to know that?
Well, I mean, I think...
I would have known that.
Really?
I would have just been like, oh, I'm screwed.
Ketamine kind of is like a downer and cocaine's an upper. So
the fact that he know that he had ketamine.
Well,
and
he knew. He may not have known specifically what it was, but he knew whatever drug she gave him like made him so he couldn't move. So
is
he
one
needed...
a downer, one's an upper?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I mean, but like that's...
You're so cute, Tim. You're such a drug
Thank you.
virgin.
Well, I don't know drugs.
I've never done either of those, but I know the class of drugs.
Clean.
I am. I know the class of drugs, and cocaine amps you up, and he knew that. So he did all this cocaine, and he runs into his car and starts chasing her. Now, remember, that brought us to the first chapters, but now we know, oh my God, everything we've thought throughout this movie, that he was hunting her, that he was strangling her, was all false. It was all like role reversal. So then we switch to...
His name in the movie is called the Demon.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I know, because he wasn't.
She's really the demon.
She's the demon. He should be...
She's the demon!
This is what I think. They probably called him that, I'll tell you, because we get to chapter 6.
Yeah.
We get to chapter 6. So remember, chapter 5 ended when he knocked her unconscious after finding her in the freezer. So... it's back to her unconscious in the freezer. He's finally caught her. He handcuffs her to the freezer, and then he calls for backup. But this is where I think was his biggest mistake. He doesn't tell them there's this woman who's a killer, and I get...
Right. He just says there's a mess.
He's like, it's a mess. I'm in some trouble. Should have never said that.
Well, yeah, because but then now he may not be the best. Like, I don't know if he does it. He's a cop that does everything by the book. So I feel like he's gotten himself in some trouble.
But he should have said, I'm here with a person who is a murderer who tried to kill. Anyway, so she wakes up and they have this conversation, and it's like weird. She's talking about how she would rather be, if she's going to go to jail, she'd rather just be killed by like a firing squad. But then
you already said that he handcuffed her, right?
Yeah, he handcuffed her to the freezer. And then they have this weird thing where she says something about how sometimes when she's looking at people, she expects to see angels, but instead sometimes she sees devils. And I was thinking to myself, that has to be at the end of that chapter 1 when she looks at him and sees like her expression changes. She must have looked at him and seen a devil. Like, I don't know if she's just schizophrenic or completely crazy, but I guess, and that's what I think. Maybe she kills the people who she sees devils in, right. And she
Barbara
spares.
Hershey from Beaches. She didn't
kill her, and maybe she saw her as an angel then, but
she is an angel.
I mean, in Beaches she was.
I love Beaches.
So sad. That movie still makes me.
You're the wind beneath my wings.
Tim, did you know that? Did you ever know you were my hero? Everything high. I can't even thinking about that movie makes me want to cry.
Me too.
Okay.
Don't bring me there.
Yeah, so we get a little bit more into her psyche because she's crazy, but like, so then you're just so happy she's finally been caught, this awful girl, and then she brings out the bear spray, sprays Kyle Gallner.
And then bites his neck.
Well, he's like flailing around and she grabs him into her, and she takes the biggest chomp out of his neck. I'm talking like a dog would
not only
take
that,
this.
then the movie takes the time for him to fall to the ground and like
spraying blood everywhere out of his neck.
They show that blood pumping out, and then they take the time to have a close-up on her spitting out a chunk of his neck.
A big chunk.
Ugh.
This wasn't like, you know, when you see people biting people in movies and you see a little blood, she took a huge chunk out of his neck. Like, you have to be a certain type of wacko.
Nasty.
Well, I was going to just say nuts to do this, but it's so much skin and he's bleeding out and he just dies on the ground. And I actually felt sad, which is so funny because at the beginning of the movie, you think he's this awful killer. And then you realize she's the villain and he just died. So, but here's the problem. She's there in this mess, still handcuffed to the freezer, and 2 cops arrive.
Right. So she decides, like, I'm going to make this look
like a rape.
Right. So she pulls down her pants and the woman is like, oh my God, this woman's been raped. Let's help this woman. And the guy's like, wait.
And it was so funny because what I like about this movie is, I think this is very true to life, it really showed the different perspectives between women and men in different situations. For instance, in the first scene, when she's talking about how women have to be afraid to have, casual sex and meet strangers, totally true. Whereas men are just like, I'm just going to meet a girl and fuck her, When it comes to a situation, these 2 cops come on the scene. They see this woman that handcuffed and it looks like she's been raped and whatever. The woman immediately is like, oh my God, we got to get her to safety. The guy is like, he was very much like, we got to call this in.
Yeah, like,
we don't know what happened.
Don't touch anything. It's a crime scene.
Yeah, so it's just like very different thing. Although I got to say, as a guy, if I came and saw that scene like that, I would have thought she was raped too and wanted to help her.
Well, she did that little detail of pulling down her pants to make it look like the situation.
Yes, and so anyway, so the the female cop is just like convinced that the woman is a victim, and so they unhandcuff her and they bring her into their car.
The guy cop was like reluctant. He's like, leave her.
Yeah, he's like, we got to call this in. We don't know what happened until we know, but she's like, no, we got to get her to medical attention. So that's a bad decision. So they put her in the back of their cop car, and this is a funny scene because they're driving and then they stop because who do they see running up out of wilderness?
She says like, and it's so sad. She goes, she killed us. Meaning like their relationship and everything she knows
and
is
her
over.
whole world.
I thought that was sad.
It was that she runs at the cop. She says, she killed us. And then you see from her perspective, she sees Willa Fitzgerald in the backseat of the car, and then boom, she gets shot in the head because Willa Fitzgerald had a gun. She had taken a gun from Kyle Gallner when he was dead and hid it in her clothes.
And a lady in the audience screamed.
Someone screamed because it was so unexpected because you thought Barbara, first off, you didn't know she had a gun, I think, at this point, Willa Fitzgerald. Secondly, Barbara Hershey, you thought she got away and she gets shot in the head.
Plus, it's Barbara Hershey. You didn't think she was going to get a bullet in the head.
You see an old woman get a bullet in the head. It's a little rough.
It was for some reason, I knew that her fate was not going to be good.
There is one funny part here. The male cop immediately says to the female cop, I told you so. Like he knows that she's a victim. And then she says, so Willa Fitzgerald has a gun. She says, drop your guns. And she lets the female cop go.
She's goes, like, run into the woods.
She's like, run into the woods. I appreciate what you did for me. Get out of here. So she tells the male cop, drive. And all I'm thinking, what were you thinking this? Because I was he's like, dead.
No, I immediately knew he was going to die. It was not going to be good for him.
And so then she gets to the middle road and he stops and she looks looks at him kind of through the rearview mirror, and she has that same expression change when she saw Kyle Gallner. She's like, oh shit, she saw a devil or a demon, and then boom, you hear a gunshot, he's dead.
And then she decides to go out into the middle of the road and lay down.
Yes, and fake that she needs help. And again, these are like, there's so many like new endings. And so another truck stops, and it's a woman, and she's like, oh my God, are you okay? Willa Fitzgerald's like, help, I need help, whatever. The woman brings her into her truck.
She puts her in the front seat. They start driving,
and
it's Willa Fitzgerald.
Willa Fitzgerald.
Willa Ford, who's that?
She was in the Friday the 13th remake.
Oh, that's right.
Willa Ford would have been a totally different movie.
There's also another Ford that was on that TV show with Kelly Ripa. What was that called?
Oh God!
And it was like, anyway.
So Willa Fitzgerald, Willa Ford, no, she takes out a gun. Like she's gonna kill this woman too. Helps her, but this is such a great twist. The other woman has a gun of her own.
She's like Annie Oakley.
She takes it out and shoots Willa Fitzgerald before she can shoot her. It's awesome.
And I was like, thank God, this girl's reign of terror is over.
We as viewers, I felt the same way. I was like, thank God someone outsmarted this bitch because she has killed so many people, turned on so many people. But here's the kicker. This is an interesting choice on the director's part. They decide that the final shot of the movie is going to be just looking at Willa Fitzgerald in the passenger seat. She got shot in the stomach, so she's like slowly gasping and slowly dying.
She also had two guns, so you thought, okay, is she going to get one more shot in? But
she
no.
But instead, it's a really long scene. She's kind of like gasping, coughing. And did you notice the coloring turned to black and white?
Very effective. I thought the director's vision was probably like, okay, we're going to watch the life drain out of her, the color drain out of her. And it was very effective because the movie goes black and white.
It does. And I thought exactly what you're saying. I was thinking it's like as we're watching the color metaphorically drain from Willa Fitzgerald, we watch the color from the movie drain, and then it's like she finally dies as this woman's driving her probably to a police station, and then it goes to credits.
And you know, it kind of reminded me of the movie we just watched with Vicky from Friday 13 Part 2. In the silence of what's
Girls Night Out?
No, the one that she did.
Oh, the
Violence of Nature.
No, In a Violent Nature.
Yeah,
In a Violent Nature.
Because you remember because they're in a
yes, that long scene in the car, but no one's dying in it. But yes, I get what you're saying. That's true.
She was kind of banged up.
She was banged up, but she wasn't dying. She was starting to bleed, but she wasn't like coughing and gasping.
Right. But I mean, she was still injured.
Yeah. No, I totally get the reference. But anyway, so the movie ends. And I was just so impressed, and for a few things. Number one, Willa Fitzgerald is incredible in this. The way she plays this psychotic woman, and there's so many facets to her. She's not just crazy. She's like very tactical, into this weird role playing, also having these weird moments of confusion.
She came across as fearless. Like she had to do a lot of like kissing and strangling and none of this
rolling
looked easy.
Around, doing this, smoking, drinking, killing, being awful, then pretending to be nice, then pretending to be in needing help, and just a great performance. The way the story was told with the chapters was so cool because it's like everything led up to something else, and it would be explained when you got to the chapter before it.
Everything you think you know, you don't know.
Exactly. And again, it wasn't a cheesy twist. It was really well. I'm telling you, Tim, every trailer I saw for this movie, I thought it was a simple Kyle Gallner's a serial killer hunting after Willa Fitzgerald, and it's the exact opposite of that.
Right, like you see the trailer, you think it's one thing.
And it's totally not.
I think everyone that sees this movie will be totally surprised. And it's really cool the way they did the trailer because, again, you think it's one thing, you're getting something else.
Exactly, 100%. But it's the way it's done. You're learning more as the story goes on and putting the pieces together. I thought it was so unique that they told in chapters and the chapters weren't in order. I thought there's so many messages in this movie, from role reversal messages to like how women and men see things differently, to seeing, like even her seeing certain people as angels, certain people as devils, like the way you see the world is different from the coloring. There's just so many things you can get out of this movie. I just thought it was brilliant.
And you know, the way that it was, I mean, other than her hair and the roots, I guess that could be any, I guess it could be any decade, but it could be in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I was like, this could be in any decade.
It did feel like it could be in any decade. And again, it's like, there's everything you want from a horror movie, from chase scenes to, blood and killing, to a twist. It was very just well done. Like, I mean, I think well written, well performed, well directed, even well shot, Giovanni.
Yeah, Giovanni, you know, he took his time.
I've got to say, we had a Q&A afterwards. Tim and I were very excited, especially after seeing the movie. And it was moderated by Carla Gugino, and I don't know if they told her don't give away spoilers, but her questions were so vague and abstract.
I felt bad because I felt like the director or Giovanni, even the star, the girl, Willa, could have just told us things without telling the ending. But like as a moderator, it really kind of put Carla in a weird spot.
I'm going to be honest. It was one of the worst Q&As I've ever seen. And listeners, you know, I kind of tell it like it is. I mean, you would think that a star like Carla Gugino with the stars of this great movie we just saw, the Q&A would be like captivating. Totally wasn't. And I don't know if it's because they were all feeling like they didn't know what they could tell or what they could talk about, but still like, I felt like Carla Gugino was like struggling as she was trying to ask questions. Like either she hadn't prepared or she had just been thrown a curveball. She was like, so think, you know, I kind of like movies where, you know, like she was struggling.
Right. Like it was like a simple question, but she added 30 other words.
How about, what was your inspiration for the script? Like, I don't know. It's just like
just
a few simple questions.
Make it basic.
What was the audition like for Will? Like some of the questions we asked.
Why did you want this role?
Yes, exactly. What was your inspiration? Like, but the questions were so long-winded and abstract. And then I felt like the answers from them were kind of long-winded and abstract too, because they didn't quite know how to answer the question. And I left that Q&A feeling like I learned nothing more about the movie.
I still, but you know,
I learned that the director's friend wrote all the music for it. That's all.
Yes, that was awesome. I'm glad. That was a fun fact.
But did you feel the same way about the Q&A?
I also learned that Giovanni Ribisi, you know, it's very weird that, not weird, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's not very often, at all, that an actor goes from to cinematographer.
Yeah, no, and it was, but the way, and I guess the director collaborated a lot with Giovanni Ribisi on everything, and you could tell the director informed the camera work because it was so in line with his vision, from the colors to the misdirects to everything. So again, so much thought put in this movie. So little thought put into that Q&A. Like it just sucked.
Because like you have this awesome movie and you do have a lot of questions, and then the Q&A was just kind of like, Oh,
and by the way, we thought we were attending a live Q&A. No, it was a Q&A that was taking place live from somewhere else.
New York City.
Broadcast onto our screen in the movie theater. So we weren't watching actual people on stage. We were watching a film of people on stage.
Right. So we were watching Carla in real time.
Struggling. And it just was so unfortunate.
Right.
You know?
And, you know, she didn't even talk about Troop Beverly Hills at all.
Yeah. And why didn't she talk about Gerald's Game?
I don't know.
No, you know what? She should have talked about Son-in-Law with Pauly Shore.
Yes.
I love that movie, by the way.
She's really good in it.
She is really good in it. Much better than she was in this Q&A.
Oh, snap.
So I think what we learned from this is that Carla should maybe stick to acting. And no, the thing is, I love Carla Gugino. As an actor, she is...
I feel like
incredible.
There's something we don't know. Like they were said, hey, Carla, before you got there, don't talk about any spoilers. Okay, bye.
I feel like, or it was like they told her 2 minutes before, hey, Carla, can you do this Q&A? Like something that she wasn't prepared for, you know? But all in all, again, I was so impressed by this movie. I highly recommend it, and I highly recommend seeing it in a theater. I think it has, I don't know, is it limited release? Why? I'm not sure, but either way.
I hope people do get to see it because the girl from Scream is a star is born.
Incredible. Again, and listeners, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I'm thinking like Mia Goth level performance. And
I hope she's nominated for something.
She won't
maybe
be.
Like a Critics Award.
Maybe a Saturn Award, like the horror type awards or something.
That's a good one.
But and the writer-director was great. Giovanni Ribisi was great. Like it just was a great movie, and I could see myself seeing it again. And now knowing the twist, like really looking for little things, you know?
I mean, now that I do know the twist, but it's still not easy viewing.
Yeah,
I mean, like to see people getting choked.
There are some disturbing parts and stuff, but now when you know going into it that the choking was what she wanted,
it don't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay. And then, but at least she doesn't get choked to death, you know? It doesn't matter.
I don't like to see people chained or handcuffed. I don't like it.
No, I don't enjoy it either, but at least there wasn't like a full-fledged like rape scene, which would have been really uncomfortable. But like going into this movie, didn't you think it could have been that?
I was on the edge of my seat. I was scared.
Yeah, I was scared for that too because I thought it was going to be that. But anyway, like it just really, really well done. So we found a good one, Tim.
It was good. I recommend it. And the trailer's misdirect. It's misleading, but in the best possible way.
Yes, exactly. Other trailers should learn from this. Like, it's like obviously a trailer doesn't give away a big twist, but
it could make people mad. Like, oh, it's bait and switch, but it's not that kind of bait and switch. It's the kind of like, oh, you think this person's the bad guy, but this is really the bad guy.
Yeah, like I think
it's like the end of Friday 13th, Mrs. Voorhees. Yeah,
I think that's what people love in bait and switch. For me, a bait and switch is like I thought I was going to a movie that was about a supernatural monster, but really it was all just grief.
Or we've gotten that.
Yes,
before.
exactly.
Or a movie like Trap, where you think you're going to see a movie about him being a butcher, but really you're just getting M. Night Shyamalan's daughter singing on stage.
Exactly, and he doesn't kill anybody, but it's about a serial killer,
and it's called The Butcher.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Bye. Thanks for listening to another episode of Happy Horror Time.
If you'd like to support the podcast, please sign up to be a patron at www.patreon.com/happyhorrortime. As a patron, you get access to all our bonus content, which now includes 2 new bonus episodes every month, a monthly after show mini episode, access to our Discord community so you can chat with us directly, and the chance to review a film with us in one of our bonus episodes.
Patrons also get all our regular episodes ad-free and a day early, our monthly newsletter, the chance to vote in polls, and autographed Happy Horror Time stickers.
I'm Matt Emmert.
And I'm Tim Murdoch.
And we hope you have a happy horror time.